Let daylight dry your tears, guide you and to guard you. Say now and always. And talk of summertime. Say you need me with your tears. Promise me that all you say is true. That's all I ask of you. You know that song? I chose that song so that I associate myself with the Phantom, yeah, and even Quasimodo. Do you know Quasimodo? The Hunchback from Notre Dame. I see myself like them, deprived of happiness because of my physical attributes. Can we make this closer? Okay, thank you. And I often ask God if He did a mistake in creating us, Quasimodo and myself, and even Joshua, the son of Madeline. Did God make a mistake? No. Let me show you some slides too. Yeah. Like them, I would be, when I was a little boy, I always look at the window. Let me show you the slides here. So, I like watching people walking by and then making stories in my mind of what they're talking or what they're fighting about. I loved and honor my parents, even if they missed in giving me the vaccine against polio, if you're going to ask. They told me that I got the polio from contaminated food or water during the worldwide epidemic in the 60s. That was the time when I was born. So as you know, the vaccine discovered in 1955 wasn't available immediately, and millions of children were vulnerable at the time. So for the understanding of polio, which is also timely for cerebral palsy, this is how the disease is. So it affects the central nervous system. So you can see that's the nerves, the colored pink, and then the spinal column is the bone that holds. So as you can see, that's the central nervous system, including the brain. So I'm going to spend some 2 minutes here. So there are 4 divisions, including the brain. Cerebral palsy is actually affected the brain itself. It was not fully developed, but it's the control system in the nervous system. But in my part, it's this division. So we'll take them fast here. So the cervical, it affects the head, the neck, my breathing, my upper arms, my wrist, and my hands. That's why they're weak. So this back was affected by polio. And then the next one is the thoracic. So that's the bones and then the nerves inside. It controls my chest and abdominal muscles. And then internal organs. So it's affected too. And then the ejaculation. The lumbar, the lower back here. So that controls the nerves for my leg muscles. That's why I couldn't walk. So the polio affected that part of the spinal. And then lastly, the sacrum. Bathroom and my ability to become parents. I guess it was not affected because I have 2 daughters. So the doctor said I only have 10% left from all of this. And I'm 56 years old, so I overused that 10%. So I don't have a picture of myself when I was little, but this is actually how bent my leg is. So I wore an AFO metal. So I walk like a robot. So and if you can see, since the onset of the epidemic, the World Health Organization recommends that all children be vaccinated against polio. Nowadays, I think it's only 2 drops, and it's not expensive anymore. There are still 350 cases of polio reported. And you guess where? In Syria and Afghanistan. So we don't know if our refugees, so it's still here. The polio virus is still here. Not in Canada, not in. So in elementary, I wore that. We call that KAFO. But it's knee, ankle, foot, and orthosis. So what will happen is, the other children of my age, they would always make fun of me. They would, like intentionally push me because I'm standing like a robot. And being laughed at while watching me struggle to get by, to get up on the ground. So they would do that many times, push me, until I would decide not to stand up. And then just waited for the teachers to just get me. And there was one boy who would even drag me in the janitor's closet, at home time, on several occasions. And then this happened when test scores I got were higher than him. Custodian in the Philippines is not the same as the custodian here in Canada, where they have certificates in power engineering. In the Philippines, they have a small closet under the stairs. So this boy, he will put me in the closet, tied my hands, and if he's in a hurry, he will just dump me in the bins and then lock the door. And of course, my dad would come and look for me because he was waiting outside. And then here in Canada, I wear this. That's for my right, and that's for my left. And they're made of fiberglass now, so it's high tech. So I wear that. And there are no boys who push me anymore. But in spite of this, You know, I unexpectedly excelled in math and sciences. There was a time when and this was a time when I felt Mama Mary hand in the midst of all this struggle. I would meet and experience her comfort even in my dreams as a young boy. I already learned to pray the rosary and make novenas to our Mother of Perpetual Help. It was my inang, I called my grandma Inang, who taught me how to pray the rosary. And I can still recall all the places we've been in the Philippines where miracles and apparitions were supposed to have happened, and we're praying for just one miracle. So I can recall what Joshua, because I couldn't stand up, I couldn't speak well, so people think that I would end up for nothing. But then a miracle happened. I was in my math class in grade 6. I was sitting in the last row, just like the tough guy. So I'm one of the tough guys now. I suddenly experienced an epiphany. All that was written on the board were so clear to me, and I could understand what the teacher were trying to explain. And I felt my chair was lifted from the back row to the front row, and I still didn't know why she was asking the question directly to me. And I answered it immediately, even without writing on the board. I solved a very difficult grade 6 problem in my head and expressed it verbally. So until now, I carry the rosary and the picture of our Mother of Perpetual Help, because the voice in my head kept saying that I'm God's masterpiece, and even if I'm physically challenged, He didn't create me by mistake. Can you please tell the person beside you that you are God's masterpiece?
God's masterpiece.
Masterpiece. So since I was always alone at home and not playing with other kids, I developed a strong inclination to mechanical drawing and building electronic kits. You know, how can I forget all my siblings' toys would be disassembled, studied, and put back together without any help from anyone. So I was supposed to be an architect, but I ended up becoming an electronics engineer. So I studied in the Santo Tomas. This is the oldest university in the Philippines, older than Harvard. Again, since it's a new environment for me, for this handicapped boy, it was, again, very difficult for me. I couldn't take the public transportation. As you can see, this is the public transportation in the Philippines. Buses and jeepneys, they don't stop for passengers. You have to learn how to grab the bars while they are in motion. And then the engineering building, they don't have elevators. Up to now, they don't have. So I would take the stairs, one step at a time. So I would have to allow myself at least 30 minutes earlier, all the time. And then the engineering programs, they included laboratory courses with huge power motors, satellite discs on the rooftops, and then we have to do the surveying of the entire campus. And then those are a few. To solve the transportation problem, I stayed in an apartment. And of course, I was exposed to all the bad stuff there. And then my grades were very good in the beginning and started to go down as the program progressed. I was barely passing now with my laboratory courses in the 3rd year. Obviously, you know, there were no accommodation made in my behalf. And I was measured by all our teachers the same as all the other students. So what I did, I had to spend extra time or even slept in the laboratory just to complete most of the experiments. So what did I do? Just like always, I didn't give up. I continued to pray the rosary and novenas to our Mother of Perpetual Help. I turned all my struggles to God to give me wisdom so I could create opportunities. I continued to cling to His Word, that I am His masterpiece all the time. I didn't want to fail. I asked for strength in my body, especially my arms and legs. It's a good thing that my younger brother now entered college. So now there's someone who could drive me. So every day. My poor brother didn't actually do well in his studies because he ended up to be my full-time caregiver and driver, even in my last semester in college. I remember that time in the last semester, thank you, I was quite intimidating to most of my teachers. I don't know. I remember, and I remember never having to march during our college graduation. Our faculty advisor gave the two of us, my group member, just incomplete grades on our thesis. So we had to spend that summer completing our design project. So in the process, we didn't graduate on time, and we lost our honors too. Again, because there was no accommodation made, and teachers were not aware of my tremendous amount of time and effort needed to complete a project. I will not forget Albert Chu, the group member, who sacrificed his magna cum laude to be my group member in this project. I don't know where he is now, but he will always be in my prayers. At the same time, I realized just in the adjacent building, the College of Education building, every Wednesday at around 4 p.m., the Ligaya ng Panginoon, or the Joy of the Lord community, was having their praise and worship gathering. So that was the time when the charismatic communities were formed, actually, in 1975 in the Philippines. I didn't pay attention to what's going on there, but now, after many years, I realized that this small community, Ligaya ng Panginoon, the Joy of the Lord, was actually like the Catholic renewal services. Almost all of the charismatic communities in the Philippines started from this community. Couples for Christ, Light of Jesus, you name it. They all started with Ligaya ng Panginoon. And that's why this verse, Jeremiah, I knew you before you were born. So I tried looking for engineering jobs, but employees couldn't accommodate someone with polio. I was unemployed and depressed for more than a year. But at the same time, I was already teaching at the De La Salle University. I was invited to teach there one or two courses during my last year in engineering. So even if I wasn't completed my engineering, I was teaching there already. And I don't know, maybe there's a purpose why I couldn't find an engineering job and I ended up teaching. And back there, I developed the aptitude for teaching. Like when I'm going to show you the board here. You know how I write things on the board? Like that. Started from the bottom and incline. So I used up only the bottom part. Because I couldn't raise my hand. But even then, the students were listening. They were learning from it. And I was the first one who used the PowerPoint slides in class. That was using Windows 3.1, if you remember. Windows 3. Error prone, Windows 3.1. But eventually I stayed with De La Salle for 14 years. Yeah. So I progressed to the rank of assistant professor, even if I write things on the board that way. And so I completed my master's, and also, you know, if given the chance, I would love to continue the teaching profession. The fulfillment of doing something so spectacular and applicable to everything from medicine to manufacturing makes me passionate to continue, because teaching is actually a vocation. That's why my youngest is going to be a school teacher. I even joined the Brothers of the Christian Schools. This is the religious organization of the St. La Salle that runs the De La Salle schools. So I stayed with the brothers until my postulancy and left the order before I took my perpetual vows. If I didn't leave the De La Salle brothers and got married, well, I wouldn't be here in front of you, isn't it? So this was a time I fell in love with the Holy Eucharist and made a daily devotion of going to Mass every day. Do you want to know what time in the morning almost all parishes hold Mass? What time? 6 in the morning. So even up till now, I will be awake at 4:30, no matter what time I went to bed the previous night. I'm awake at 4:30. That's why my wife is always complaining, "Why are you awake?" I'm used to it, because every day I go to Mass. And then mention my wife. So because I was teaching, and now I didn't have problems getting other work, so I have consulting work. So those companies that didn't accept me getting the entry-level engineering jobs, now I'm doing consulting work with them. So while teaching, I was doing that, you know, real estate, stock brokerage, or insurance companies. That was a time I met my wife in one of the elevators. Yeah. So I have a picture of my wife here. So she was actually on her way. I remember that so vividly because she was on her way to the Tuesday prayer meeting of Bo Sanchez Light of Jesus community. She invited me, and I readily said yes. So anyway, we knew each other in elementary because we came from the same school. And we are already in our 30s, so we got married in just after 4 months of dating and attending the feast prayer meeting. I told her that I already fell in love with her when we were in grade 3. Anyway, so back in the days when I was teaching, I was also granted a scholarship grant for a PhD in computer science in UK. But circumstances didn't allow us to go because Rowena was pregnant with our first baby, Katie, at that time. And I ended up leaving my teaching career because we didn't go. But I trusted that God had other plans for us. I couldn't imagine, I'm sure if we went and I ended up having a doctorate in computer science, again, I won't be here in front of you, is it? Yeah. So, in Isaiah 40:31, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will take up wings like eagles. They will run and not struggle. They will walk and not tired. Then in 1996, I joined, oh, by the way, so this is Light of Jesus. Our community is Light of Jesus. And the prayer meeting, this actually what we're doing is feast. There's food, there's praise and worship, there is a talk. This is the feast. Yeah, this is our prayer celebration. But the community is actually Light of Jesus. So I joined a company back in the day when Google Maps and Google hasn't been found yet. So this is what we're doing. So I was asked to lead a company to handle the technology operations. So we have maps of Manila taken like 20, 30 years ago. And then, so this is an example. I took this from Google now, but anyway. So we convert that to vectors, the houses and the business establishments, the streets, another layer, the trees, and then we add information like EPCOR account numbers of the houses. So we did this in the computer back in the day when there was no Google and Google Maps. So you know what? How we did this? By foot. We have surveyors walking and drawing the neighborhood by hand. And then they would come to the office and enter this into the software using AutoCAD. That's why when I left the company closed down because they don't know what to do. I felt so good now that God is answering my prayers. You know, this happening, consulting, getting married to a wonderful and godly woman, 2 daughters. I always thank the Lord every day. I'm not anymore that crippled boy by the window. God is fulfilling His promises. And then one day, I came home from work and my wife said that we all need to go in 2 months and migrate to Canada because our permanent resident visas came. It only took 7 months of processing compared to what others have to endure these days. I think it's 5 years now. I was, because of my disability, same as Josh with cerebral palsy, I was brought to different doctors. How many doctors saw me? Like 5? So I don't know if I was allowed to come here in spite of my condition, isn't it? So I'm sure Joshua will be allowed to, because I was allowed. And then, so we have to sell everything, you know, our car, our office equipment, everything, because we have to have money, the kind of money that we need to support ourselves here in Canada. I didn't work. No, I didn't work at the time because our 2 daughters. Can you see it? Our 2 daughters on the left, the small pictures, they were 6 and 2 when we came, Katie and Nikki. And the picture on the right, these are the pictures of them now. So I didn't work for 4 years. I was their nanny. So I ended up doing courses online, and of course the Edmonton Public Library. But when I started looking for work, I find it difficult again. Not because I am handicapped, because they will accept you, but because my background and employment experiences were not Canadian. Okay. So as a newcomer, I got most of the odd jobs that lasted for only a few months. My first full-time job was TD Canada Trust. That's the first company that trusted me. So in 2005, I stayed there until 2012, until I became an investment representative at TD Waterhouse in direct investing. I have to leave because we closed down the office and we have to move. Everybody have to move to Ontario. My wife didn't want to go. So I stayed and looked for opportunity here. I ended up with Edward Jones Investments. So if you're familiar with the North Edmonton area, my office is at the corner of 97th Street and 153rd Avenue. My name is on the door. Goodness. But until that, the car accident happened. You know, last year, 2015, I was rear-ended and injured my back and right foot. So I continued to work actually, even after a month, until I felt the general weaknesses in my arms and legs. So, because the accident hurt my already polio-stricken spinal cord and another set of soft tissue injuries, so it just worsened everything. Even a few months ago, I fractured my right ankle just by transferring from my power chair to the toilet seat. Okay. How do you turn this off? There. So I'm not able to come back to work ever since, and I'm currently receiving CPP disability benefit. That's $911 a month. In addition to the amount that Sun Life is giving me. As a result of the loss of income, our loans and credit card debts, now amounts to $60,000, excluding the mortgage in our house. So this is not supposed to be happening when our two daughters are now both in university and needed funds to, for their education. We don't want to lose our only car, and most definitely not our house. Rowena is the only one supporting us financially. But even then, my time is spent. I go to a workout every day. That's in the Stedward Center. I lift weights, 10 pounds. So I go there every day, and physiotherapy at the Glen Rose Hospital. So my time is spent on being full-time with the Light of Jesus now. I'm the a coordinator for feast videos in Canada and the US. And then I also help people on the side open a gold savings account. No, I'm gonna, wait. So I just last night, because I need extra income, I'm learning how to list items to sell online using eBay and Amazon. So since last night, there's a training until Sunday. So we missed the morning session because I have to be here. This is more important. I'm sure the Lord will bless this venture, isn't it? So I'm going to sell items online using eBay and Amazon. Hopefully that will create, and I also help people open a gold savings account online. So those are the things. So right now, I think I'm back to asking miracles again to the Lord, to bring back that strength in my arms and legs. I know that it will take more effort this time because I'm older. So please, brothers and sisters, help me to lift my prayers and petitions, not just to Mama Mary, also to all the angels and saints. We believe that we are all His great masterpiece, and we are created not by mistake, but by His image and likeness. Amen. Amen. So let me offer you a song again. Okay. I'll end up the talk with a song. Into your hand I commit again, with all I am for you, Lord. You hold my world in the palm of your hand, and I am yours forever. Jesus, I believe in you. Jesus, I belong to you. You're the reason that I live. Yes, Lord, you are the reason that I sing with all I am. Let's all stand. I'll walk with you, if you know the song. Wherever you go, through tears and joy, I trust in you, and I will live in all of your ways, your promises forever. Let's sing together. Jesus, Jesus, Lord, you're the reason that I live, the reason that I sing. Jesus, I believe in you. Yes, Lord. Jesus, I belong to you. You're the reason that I live, the reason that I sing with all I am. We worship you, Lord. Rescue, Lord, us, Lord, from our brokenness. We worship you, Lord. We trust in you, Lord, forever and ever. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen.